Welcome everyone. This is the second class of bioinorganic chemistry. In this class, we will take some example of metal ions and try to learn the role of those metal ions in biological systems. But prior to that, I have shown you a diagram which is particularly representing the percent of atoms in human body. You can see that the human body consists 62% of water, 16% of protein, 6% of minerals, 1% of carbohydrate and 16% of fat. Now, as you can see that in our human body, oxygen is nearly 65%, carbon is nearly 18%, hydrogen is around 10%, nitrogen is 3.2%, calcium 1.5%, phosphorus is 1.2%, and rest of the metal ions are nearly around 1%. So most of our body contains these oxygen, carbon, hydrogen and nitrogen. These four elements, oxygen, carbon, hydrogen and nitrogen will consist more than 90% in our body. So at first sight, the idea of this inorganic chemistry associated with life means that the biological system may appear to be rather narrow field of study, because we tend to think of living matter as being just organic. Maximum times we try to think like that the living matter would be only just being organic. However, it is a fact that without certain inorganic elements, no organism could exist, because sometimes it is happening that the enzymes are only giving or only showing their activity just because of the metal atoms present in that structure. So the term bioinorganic, which is a composite of biology and inorganic, is used to describe the occurrence and properties of inorganic elements in living system, and these elements are extremely important for our day-to-day life. Now here I have shown you a periodic table, and as you can see that here some elements are actually highlighted in red, in violet and violet or blue, and some are highlighted with this black color. So basically these red colors are for the macro mineral, the violet or blue colors are for the trace mineral, and the black colors are for the ultra trace mineral. And we have already learned these kind of things, that what are the essential, beneficial, trace and ultra trace elements or the metal ions, and this is just the recapture of the same class. Now coming to the main part, that what role does the metal ions play actually. So the metal ions are actually present or mainly present at the active site of the biomolecules, and especially in the metal enzymes. Now these metal ions are having some functional role, and they are also having some structural role. Because of their structures, they are doing some work, and just because they are present in those kind of metal enzymes, they have some kind of functional role. But do remember one point, that these metal enzymes without these metal ions are simply inactive. I am not asking you that without that enzymes also the metal will do the same work, but definitely without the metal enzymes are just simply inactive. So metal ions or the presence of those metal ions are very important in these biological systems. So basically when we are learning these bioinorganic chemistry, we are having the sole responsibility to know the functional and structural roles of these kind of metal ions. So in today's class, we will discuss the role of some of the metal ions like sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium, iron, copper and zinc. So this will be the basic idea, that is the role of these metal ions present in our biological systems. At first we will discuss about the sodium ion. So the sodium ion is basically a major cation in extracellular fluid. Later we will learn about this sodium potassium pump, and then the importance and its application in our biological systems. So now this sodium ion is also acting as a charge carrier, and it is also responsible for the electrolytic balance, This iron is required in the process of nerve impulse creation and its transmission. It is also involved in the co-transport of sugar and amino acids into the cells. Now we will look into the important roles of this potassium ion, and basically the potassium ion is a major cationic species which is present in this intracellular fluid in the animals, and we will later look into the sodium potassium pump and its importance we will definitely see in the next few classes. And it is also acting as a charge carrier, and it is maintaining the electrolytic balance. It is also required to maintain proper osmotic pressure in nerve impulse transmission. So basically these roles of the sodium and potassium are actually correlated, and the importance of this potassium is also lies in cardiac function and in the glucose metabolism. Now coming to the magnesium, it is required in photosynthesis, and we do already know that this magnesium is present in the chlorophyll, and basically it is very much important in these photosynthesis reaction or photosynthetic reaction, because we have already come to know that in case of these ATP hydrolysis also the magnesium was very much important, and it was actually playing a very important role. And it is also required for these phosphate group transfer reactions, stabilizing DNA and RNA and construction of these cell membranes. Now coming to calcium, when we generally heard about this metal atom or metal ion, actually the first term comes into our mind is the bone, because we do know that the presence of calcium is very much important for the strength of our bones. Even for this, actually the knowledge of chemistry is not important, because the general public do also know that calcium is very much important for our bones. Then what is the actual responsibility, or why the chemistry knowledge is important in this case? See, that calcium is very much important for our bone strength. We do know that. But again, we should know that calcium is also responsible to form this calcium oxalate, which is actually the kidney stone. So, what is the important thing, or what is the main part, or what is the main point I am trying to just trying to just elaborate to you, that intake of calcium is very much important for our body because it will strengthen our bones. But at the same time, excessive intake of calcium is very dangerous, because it may result into the formation of these kidney stones. So excessive intake is not good. Even means not a single metal ion or nothing is good. Nothing excessive intake of anything is bad, or actually it is a poison, or poison for our body. It may react in a reverse case or in a reverse pathway. See, that calcium is very much important for the bone strength, but at the same time excessive intake of calcium may result into the formation of these kidney stones. So here actually the knowledge of a chemistry very much important, that how much intake of calcium is actually necessary in the biological system, because there would be some deficiency, because deficiency of particular metal atom or ion like this calcium will hamper our system, or will hamper our biological system. At the same time, actually excessive intake may not result into a good health. It will also hamper our human body. So the proper concentration, so the knowledge of this proper concentration is actually important, and that's why the knowledge of chemistry comes into the picture. So that we will see in our next classes, but here actually we will try to figure out the important benefits or important roles of these calcium ions in the biological systems. See, that calcium is required in the cell membranes, in the bones, as we have already discussed, that is very much important for our bone strength, in muscle contraction, in blood clotting, and in maintaining osmotic pressure. At the same time, actually, when we do heard about iron, we do consider about blood, because see that iron is actually attached with this porphyrin unit to form this iron hemoglobin or this iron myoglobin, and it is actually then responsible to for this oxygen uptake or this oxygen transfer. And it is also very much important, this iron ion is also very much important in different oxygenase enzymes, in catalase peroxidase, cytochrome P450, we will just discuss in the next few classes. And it is also important in different electron transport protein like iron sulfur protein, and all these things actually we will discuss in our next classes. Just try to understand that in these class actually what we are doing, just we are considering the basic roles of these metal ions in the biological system. So we are not elaborating it, we are not going into the depth, just the basic ideas we are trying to figure out in this class. So now we will consider into copper. So why copper is important in the biological system? Now, copper is required in several enzymes like cytochrome C oxidase, amine oxidase, ascorbic acid oxidase, etc., and in electron transport proteins like azurin, in oxygen transport protein like hemoglobin also. Everything we will discuss in brief, but that will be done in the next few classes. We will have to wait for it, but in these class we will only consider the basic roles of these kind of metal ions. Now coming to the zinc, it is required in large number of enzymes, about 300 enzymes. So zinc is very much important to our human body, to the biological system, to the organism. Actually, it is maintaining this reproduction process, and it is very much required in genetic materials like DNA, RNA, etc. because you have already seen the DNA structure, the RNA structure, and the presence of zinc in that. And some of you might have heard about the importance of this zinc in this DNA RNA structure, and it is also required in hydrolytic enzymes like carboxypeptidase, etc. So we will look into these also, but in the next few classes. Now coming almost to the last part of this class, we will discuss about some of the metal atoms or the ions. Actually, vanadium is important for the nitrogen fixation. It is also important for this oxidase activity. Chromium is important for involving or maintaining the glucose tolerance. Manganese is important in case of photosynthesis, because in photosynthesis you will just see the role of this manganese ion. We will just see in the next few classes. It is also important for the oxidase activity. Now this molybdenum is a very much important ion for this nitrogen fixation, and nitrogen fixation is also important in the biological system. It is also important for this oxygen transfer, this oxidase activity. Now tungsten, coming to the tungsten, it is very much important for this dehydrogenase activity. Okay, so we have already discussed some of the roles of some of the metal ions whichever we have taken in our classes, like the calcium, magnesium, iron, copper, zinc, and I have just shown you a basic representation of these roles of these metal ions, like this calcium, magnesium, iron, copper, zinc, cobalt, sodium, and potassium. Because see that if we do consider these diagram, then maybe we have a general idea, general idea regarding the roles of these metal ions. Because see that people do generally know that calcium is very much important for the bones and teeth, magnesium is also very much important for the bones and teeth, for the intracellular activity, iron is also known for this hemoglobin, for the blood, for the oxygen transfer, like copper, and zinc is also very much important for these enzymes. Cobalt is actually very much important in vitamin B12, and sodium potassium is very much important for the sodium potassium pump, for the nerve impulses, for the water balance, and for these inside and outside cells for balancing this pressure. So you look into this in a brief manner, but see that these class is very much important for you, because as we are learning the bioinorganic chemistry, we should know the roles of these metal ions, because learning the bioinorganic chemistry means learning the roles of these metal ions with respect to the organism, with respect to the human body, with respect to the biological part. biological part of our body. So what is their roles with respect to us, with respect to the biological body, with respect to the biological system, or with respect to the organism. So therefore it is very much important to know the roles of these kind of metal atoms. So this is for this class, and in the next classes actually we will just try to describe these roles, try to just elaborate these roles of these kind of metal ions. So in this class, we have already learned that why the metal ions are actually important in these biological systems, and what is actually the bioinorganic chemistry means. The bioinorganic chemistry doesn't mean that the biological part and only the organic part is important. Why the metal ions are actually important in this bioinorganic chemistry. And after that actually we just try to figure out, or we have just tried to take some of the examples of these metal ions, and then we try to figure out their roles in these biological systems. Okay, so thank you for this class, and in the next classes we will try to elaborate these kind of things. So thank you for watching this video, and if you have any doubt regarding this class, you can directly contact us through the website www.nsinst.com, or you can drop a mail at nsinst@gmail.com, or you can directly send message or WhatsApp us in the given number. Once again, thank you for watching this video. See you in the next class. Thank you.